can be mortal.
Welcome, Mere Mortalites, to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musings. You've got Kyron here on this side.
You've got Juan on the other side.
Oh, yeah, you do. On Sunday, 5th of January, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. This is a Musings episode where we dive deeper into a particular topic, philosophy. Not in the park this time. We're in Juan's little studio here. Changes might be coming to the studio.
Correct.
In the near future as well. We have also had a lot of problems trying to get two cameras running simultaneously. My laptop doesn't allow it, so you're stuck with us. But thankfully, we've got some pretty decent audio coming through as well. I chose today's episode, and it was just the time of the year where it's... Let's have a look back at the year, not goal-wise. I didn't want to focus on what our goals were of this last year. We already do that.
Yeah, I think we do that already. Yep.
So this was more general life trends, universe, world trends, all of these sorts of things that we noticed, observed, saw for ourselves, but also perhaps for other people, and then what we think is coming up for this next year. So I've got a list here, which was of things that I kind of just noticed, and then also some biggest learnings, and then I've got my predictions for 2025.
Okay.
And I've actually got a fairly extensive thing here. So
For 2025?
Yeah, for both. So I might just dive into mine and get this little spiel out of the way. So, review of 2024. What was the biggest thing? Well, obviously for me, it was Mum's passing away. That was mostly a known factor. There was still some questions at the start of the year of how long she had left. At one point, it was like, okay, she's probably got less than 12 months, which was still, a bit open in the air. We got that news probably in February or March, hence my decision to go traveling, because it was like, I've still got probably, it's still, who knows? If I just stay here the entire time with her, I'll lose the opportunity to go do some things I really wanted to do. And, going to Nashville, meeting Dave Jones, Cole and Petar, which kind of just all came simultaneously together at that time. But yeah, that was obviously the big event for me. Funnily enough, it should have been the worst year of my life. That's easily the worst thing that's happened. I say happened to me. Obviously, it happened to Mum, and that was really, really terrible. It was a lot of suffering, but it wasn't. And the reason for that was I kind of told myself it wouldn't be the worst year of my life. At the start of the year, I was like, the last couple of years have been shitty, and I've contributed to that through my mindset. And so, it was horrible, especially the first half of the year. She passed away in May, so yeah, January through June was all pretty shit. There was not a whole lot of real fun going on there. But then it certainly lightened up towards the end of the year. Stress and heartbreak. I was reading my journal entries of this last year, and I'm like, yeah, you can see I'm suffering a bit, but it's not too bad. It's not the kind of suffering that I experienced when I was in university and was so in my own head. I had my own problems I couldn't fix. I couldn't talk to girls. I was anxious around people. I think there was more suffering for myself personally back then. So that was a interesting Brazil period. So this was kind of the April through to September. Discombobulating. So there was a lot of back and forth, obviously, with traveling. So I did that trip, that flight 4 times, Australia, Brazil, as well as multiple flights up and down to the US and across the US and Canada. So that whole period, I look at it now, I'm like, damn, I did a lot of fucking flying, man. That was just a lot of travel. So even though I try to have a bit of a routine, it was very hard to. And so even, it was amazing being with Lucas, my friend, Brazilian friend there. He treated me very kindly. I got to see a lot of his hometown, experience Brazil. Yet if I look at training wise, for example, it was just all over the shop. There was bugs, I couldn't stretch properly. I was fitting in my training with him. There was rain. it was just everything was like,
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily optimal for training, I guess.
And there was definitely some poor decision making made after Mum passed away. I got a little bit reckless there for about a month, which was not good. Towards the end of the year, had a real section of clarity, optimism, and hope, I would say, kind of from September on. I think meeting all of the cool people in August, so special shout out, Dave Jones, Cole McCormick, Peter the Slav, who just made that trip really wonderful at the end. And it was kind of like, I don't know, it was reaffirming to be like, oh man, there's these people across the world I never even met, and they welcomed me with open arms. Met Lucas, of course, as well. Was just really encouraging. Gave me, I don't know, a bit of a boost, I think. Also made me realize how much I missed my friends and family after being away for that 4-month period. Well, June, July, August, and most of September.
Yep, 4 months.
That I was quite homesick at the end of that, which I wasn't expecting per se, especially when I compare it to the big travel I had in
big last travel that
2018, 2019, where I was away for 14 months and I didn't
really
feel it that
up,
much.
yeah.
No. So that was rather interesting. Living with someone super positive towards the end of the year, aka my brother as well, has just been really, really nice as well. So, I don't really like living on my own for extended periods of time. It's nice for a little bit, but being with someone's good. And then this probably also ties in with making some really good financial decisions. I mean, it's easy to be like more positive when you're a little bit richer. So
yeah, true.
I have been prudently diversified in some in the past, but now I've kind of, what many would say is gone in on a very risky proposition. My dad, which they view as gambling, but I just view as extremely volatile personally. Sure. So this worked out so far. If I'm wrong, it'll be a life-shattering wrong, but we'll see.
I guess the reality is though, that you can probably handle a life-shattering wrong. Now, like if it happens, it happens. Like, is the overwhelming odds there that it's going to go the right way? Probably, right? So
I think so.
Yeah.
And if not, people always say the best time to take risks is when you're young and you don't have people dependent on you.
Correct.
And I have neither of those, so fuck it. Yeah, this is now. Fuck it is not what I would advocate in general. It's like that. Fuck it comes from a serious amount of research.
Yep.
But yes, indeed, I
good
probably wouldn't be
differentiation.
doing exactly this if I was in your position.
Yeah. Look, it's a good differentiation in that it's not. I wouldn't also consider it risky. It is volatile. There's a difference between that, because if it's if you're assured that's going to be successful and go the right path in 10 years, but it's going to be volatile as hell, there's a certain subset of people that just can't handle that volatility. They want to see consistency and growth, and they want to just see it slightly tracking up or tracking down, but going gradually. Whereas there are some assets that don't do that. They're super volatile. Yes, they're the ones that might get you, a 10x return on whatever you're doing, but
you have to be able to endure some pretty big down periods as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I'll do all my learnings in a little bit, but I wanted to hear of your
You'll do all
year
the
in
learnings.
overview. Learning, like my kind of biggest learnings from the year.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say from my perspective, it was more attributed to one big aspect that came up in 2024 and the reviewing of all of my details was the international flight over to Japan, and obviously this was Japan in not a friend context, but with family, and just the differences and the priorities that you place in that. And that extended across all of 2024 in that everything I could name a lot of things that I did, which independently are good on their own. Like there was periods when I remember it into my monthly goals or monthly notes. It was, you did 12 kilometers and then 13 kilometers and then 15 kilometers and like back-to-back weeks, and kind of getting better at doing running, or at least being okay with the minor suffering that comes with that, and some successes with weightlifting and travels and work-wise. And all of those are big things that occurred in the year that are like awesome, fantastic. But as I went through the review and I did like a much deeper dive into my 2024 lessons, I guess, that I could pull out, I went, but all of that paled in comparison by magnitudes to just the pure being a dad. That in itself, I could name lots of things I was proud about this past year in 2024 that happened, that we got to do, etc. But I could probably list out two days of what I did with my daughter, or an event, and that would immediately overtake everything else that happened, which was really nice. So the biggest trend that I could look back in 2024 is all of the various things I did with my daughter, like traveling to Japan internationally, going down to Canberra to see friends, but also going as a family, doing a lot of family trips. Shifting 2024, I think, marked a really specific year for me, where before that, I was working in a way where I was either at an office or putting in a lot of effort that was during times that suited me. Whereas 2024 marked a big difference in, fuck that. I'm not prioritizing me as per se, although in a way I am, because I'm still doing all the things that I want to do, but I'm prioritizing the time slots where I can maximize being a dad and putting like full energy into that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of talked about a lot at the beginning of 2024. Yeah, I was, waking up at about 4:30. That was the usual time. Now, Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Sundays, it's 3 a.m. Right? That means I can get some extra things in. But what does that act like? Again, why? Why am I doing that? It's because on Mondays, Thursdays, and hopefully Sundays, that also means I can get back home from the gym, do some work on the things that I want to do, but then I also can spend uninterrupted time with my daughter between 7 a.m., 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on those mornings, right? And we're talking to some friends on the weekend, or just yesterday, and talking about, I'll explain to them, I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, holy shit, like, how do you get all this done and whatever else? And I was most proudest to kind of describe some of the way that I do it, in that I give myself maximum time to be there with my daughter. Another thing, I guess, in 2024, it stretches a bit more, but I think since my daughter was born, I've been away 2 days or 3 days from her. That's it. I think my partner's been away 1 day from her. I honestly couldn't. I've talked to a couple of parents. There's either kind of two camps. Either there's some parents out there that are just like, oh yeah, as soon as I have a kid, I just like palm them off to my to their parents, or okay, give them a daycare or babysitters. Like, take them. I need to like return to my own self. Again, that's whatever. That's a path he will take. There's others that not so much that end, but they, I wouldn't say resent, but they don't have that option, or like, I just need a bit of a break. Like, I don't want to be with them all that often. I'm probably in the camp of like, no, I've loved it. Like, the fact that I've been able to say I can be there basically every day, seeing every single milestone. Some people, like other parents, will comment when someone would ask me, how old is she? And I'll say 17 months, 20 months, 21 months. And they go, that's because you have your first child. When you have a second child or more, you'll just be, they're a year and a half, or you won't remember this. And I challenge that. I'm like, nah, man, I can remember like everything. I know when she was like, obviously how old she is. I know like when she took the first steps, not exact days, but I can recall them and I can go find them with my journal as well. So I think the big thing about 2024, weirdly enough, is yes, I accomplished lots of things. Man, financially, and again, I track this from a financial perspective on a month-to-month basis of how we're going from a net worth perspective. 2024 was like nuts from a net worth perspective. What I have, this is typical engineering brains of ours, I guess, is I have both a tracker but also like a graph that also shows, I put an equation against it of like roughly what sort of gradual increase should it be. So in 30 years time, 50 years time, roughly what would I expect my net worth to be, right? And then I put some deviating factors around, okay, well, if this is the low end or high percentage, 2024 was like, cool, I just like doubled the fucking curve of what it was and it's just gone. That paled in comparison to like, it just made not even a dent in, but I always get to be a dad and that's the primary thing. Oh, and also health and fitness. So that also, if I was to review back a lot of 2024, I was like, health and fitness and being a dad. And honestly, the rest of stuff of like business or money or even like soul or a few other things, that all kind of started to deviate away. And I think that's just the season. That's the season where I'm going to be. I'm sure I'm going to be there for the next few years. Something will happen that'll make the change as well, as daughter goes to school or whatever else, right? Yeah. That will change. I'm sure it'll be. But for me, 2024, that I have to be like, that's my review. That's like the big call outs from the year.
When will you start saying a year and a half, 2 years. You're not going to say 27 months, are you?
Yeah, I actually had this thought the last couple of days. I was like, after 24 months, I'd just be like, 2 years.
Yeah,
like at that point,
that's a bit
it
silly.
is. Like, I would call it. It's very different to say when they're like sub 2 to say, they're a year old or they're like 2 year old, they're a year and a half. Because there's a lot of differences that happen at those early days. Like it's a lot. I reviewed back my notes for last Christmas and last New Year's. And so, again, it's a year. Last Christmas and last New Year's, my daughter was like just standing, like just standing. And she tried to rip on her presents, but like kind of couldn't. It was just that, right? Whereas, fast forward to a year just gone by, and this Christmas was like way magical, right? It was, again, I talked about it in the monthly goals, but I didn't go to the gym early because, again, my daughter wakes up at 4:20 in the morning. We got her up, brought her into our bed, relaxed for a little bit. She fed, and then, she wandered out, ran to the Christmas tree. It was like the first time you've ever seen like a kid like see presents and be like, what the hell is this? Opening them up, right? That's like a year. So to say, the difference between a year and 2 years, even a year and a half to 2 years, it's huge. It's massive. It's between a kid not talking and a kid fully like interacting in a talkative manner. So after 2 years, like, it'll be just 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. Yeah. At that point, you can start talking about it in that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was thinking with Butters, I say, he's a year and a little bit. Obviously, it's different between a kid and a dog. But
like if you had a dog that's like 4 months versus 8 months, there's some differences there. You wouldn't be like, I think
I just said half a year.
You could probably start doing it from 1.5. Like there are some times where I've started going, she's just over 1.5 or almost 2. You can start getting into that sort of like debate.
Any big worldwide things that happened in 24 outside of your personal sphere that you think?
Beyond the puzzle bubble. How did someone explain it? I think it was Tom Bilyeu posted this. He said 2024 was like the entree for AI. And I replied back with a comment which you liked, and I was like, 2025 is probably going to be the fucking main course when it comes to that. So I think the big thing that I saw, I've been using AI tools and whatnot from a business perspective, like using it in a business and using it for context since 2023. The first time I started using a lot of AI tools and selling it to businesses and implementation was 2016. So I've been selling AI products and chatbots and making them and stuff like that, 2016. 2023 marked like the year I was like, there was a lot. 2024 was like, this is like fast track its usage. So it just like, for most people in the world, like have been using a lot more AI, where it's video, photo, text-based, creative, whatever. So I would say that as a review as well of the year. Looking back, I'm going to say 2024 is going to be the year remembered historically as that was the year it fucking started going bananas. Like that was the initiation of bananas.
So 2024 was the year.
Yep. Where maybe I would say like to Bitcoin and crypto 2017, right? I would hazard 2017 or just pre-COVID, that like period between 2017 to 2019, 2020 was like, that onwards was like, okay, poof, we're on mainstream. That's like mainstream usage. I'm going to say 2024 onwards is, that's mainstream. Okay. Off we go.
Yeah.
That would be the only other review.
Yeah, sure. My brother's girlfriend, she works with another Colombian, and they've got a group chat for their work, which includes a lot of Australian, managers and people like this. And she was making a joke last night where I think her friend's name's Mate or something. Mate always puts in, when she writes, there's always quotation marks at the start and end of her thing. Obviously indicating she's just used ChatGPT because she's translating from Spanish and chucking it in. So, it's kind of funny.
You can, the more and more you use it, you also can tell the little things an AI does or the like grammatical uses it does that usually humans don't use or like a person doesn't use. Very clear one if you want to see it. Dashes. You see a lot of dashes in paragraphs. That's not usually used by most humans, Mere Mortals. I do. I use them sometimes in text messages, dashes, just not naturally. But if you see one that's like, generally if you see a lot of dashes, that's AI generated for sure.
I can't think I've ever used a dash.
Yep.
There you go. All right. My biggest learnings from the year was focused effort produces results. It's one of those ones where it's like, you just need a reminder. So financially, so because I'm all in now, I got a chance to review my stonk portfolio from 2012, so stocks. And I'd always kind of known, like I tracked and I'd been like, okay, yeah, I can see what's happening here. Okay, that was good decision, that was bad. But it when I finally got everything finished and so I could do like a final sum up, it really put into contrast just how average an investor I was. And over this entire period, I would have done much, much better if just from the very get-go, I'd put it all into a Vanguard and just track the Australian, top 50 or something, or top 100 maybe. And I would have been much more financially better off rather than reading annual reports like I did, trying to pick this stock or that stock. And it's not that I didn't put in effort, but it was that the effort was scattered. And this was also reflected in my training. So physically, the one-arm handstand, I was scattered. I was thinking like, I really want to do the stall to press, and I did get 3 of them. Yep. But I also wanted to still try and train this other thing at the same time, etc., etc. I'm having much better results right now when I'm giving the one arm the respect it deserves. And going solely after that. And I think even emotionally and like love life and things like this, I've put in a lot of effort, tremendous effort, scattered all around. I needed to change some conditions. And I think I did okay under the conditions I had, but yeah, there's a call out for myself and probably for others. Focus effort produces results, or the better results. Capturing data and evaluating is critical. Like I said with the stocks, is really just eye-opening. I can't emphasize just how annoyed I was at how poorly. It's not poorly. It was just underwhelming that the investments I'd done over the years was disappointing to say the least. And then probably the biggest one was just, and this is a more recent one, was I felt pretty lonely this last year, I'd say. And, a lot of that was, it's my fault for sure, but it's also not entirely my fault. So there's things I do that contribute towards that. Solitary by nature, a lot of the hobbies I have, I don't have a job, so I'm not mixing with people like that. You can still be lonely in those conditions for sure. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have a 9 to 5 and still feel very lonely. But there's things I do that contribute towards that. But with that being said, I've met a fair few people recently who I just say they're reasonably well put together people is what I would say. There's nothing screaming about them that screams red flag or anything. And, I've gotten to know them a little bit better. A lot of these people through the gym, but also outside of that, friends of friends, even just friends. And it seems to be like some contributing factors. The biggest one I've actually found is that most of them hate, and if they're lonely, this is usually regards to physical, like having a partner or something like this. And the biggest factor is they don't enjoy dating apps, and it's not just me. It's there's this aspect of not enjoying the process of texting or meeting people via that way or something like this. They really, and whatever it is, I think there's quite a few reasons you might not enjoy the dating apps. And I was looking into some data and it's like, yeah, that's how a lot of people are meeting nowadays. And so
someone commented, I think it was 50% of relationships currently
it's huge.
From dating apps.
Yeah, huge. So, and that's into the old age group as well, because I do know some people who are, in their 50s, 60s have found through online or dating apps. So that was one of the common factors. You could also add into like some people are with their finances, like there's plenty of financial angst out there on YouTube. If you go looking at like Australian housing crisis or you don't even have to look to it. It just popped up for me, and I'm not typing in these things. There's certainly people who are feeling the pinch financially, which I think is contributing to a bit of that. I was going to say like the common thread of hating texting, aka Gary Vee and his blogging days. That might, could be social media rotting our brains. I feel like this is getting off the deep end. Ultimately, though, I look at this and I'm like, I don't indulge in this because there's plenty of counterfactuals. So, for example, I had the option, I right now could have a wife and kids with the first girlfriend I had. That was definitely in the path, and I'd be absolutely miserable. That if there's whatever angst has been caused by being lonely, I could have had just as much, if not, I would say way more, by being in a
suffering
relationship,
by going down the wrong path.
In one which I knew it was not what I wanted at the time, and I needed to explore more, go out in the world. I needed more independence, ultimately, and so it's like, well, you're fucked if you do, fucked if you don't. So you're kind of fucked no matter what. So what's the point of really indulging in like, if the government had only, if our money was better financial conditions, then I can't afford a kid at this moment, or I can't find her because I can't get my own place or anything, or like bitching against social media or the dating apps that are ruining dating and things like, no, that's not the correct conclusion to take from any of that. So there, it's important to, I think, acknowledge it, but also go like, okay, that's not the reason I'm feeling lonely. There was other contributing factors to it, and I should only focus on the ones which I can control.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the big
some of the big call-outs. Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add just from the 2024, because these kind of map up already to what I said, but there is something I borrowed this from Tim Ferriss, but it was popped up heaps as a past year in terms of reviewing it. He's like Tim says, focusing on the tasks that truly matter and eliminating the rest. So honestly, that was one of the things I talked about it in the like longer format that I did on this one.
Yeah, what was the thing you said lots this year? Was what are you optimizing for?
Yeah, I said a lot. Yeah, what are you optimizing for? Again, one of the things that I kind of started the year, I think, looking at it, even in my notes, it was, there's some probably the Mere Mortals at home listening to this. Lots of things. Like again, lots of business ideas, lots of content ideas, and I wanted to do, as generally I think most people maybe want to do, like I want to do all of it, right? And even though I know you can do anything, you can't do everything, I still go, well, yeah, I'm going to push as much as I can with everything.
We'll see about that.
But it kind of came down to this view of, look, you can do 100 things and 98 of them you basically don't do, and 2 of them you kind of do it okay. Is that better than doing 5 things, but doing 5 things really, really great and forgetting the other 95 things, right? And kind of towards the tail end of my learning was like, you have to focus in, I don't mind balancing things. So I don't, not that I don't disagree or agree. I just, the view of, focus on one thing and do that one thing really well. I know myself, I'm going to get bored doing that. Like if I was to go all in on deadlifting, all in on running, I'm going to get over it. That's just who I am after a while, and I want to get some variety and mix up. So if I do that, yes, I'll see maximal gains there, but then I'll jump onto something else. And then after 5 years, will I be like, well, I just did everything on average, maybe, where I more look toward, okay, well, balance a few things, but do them really well. Just not do a million things and then do them all really, really poorly. So a lot of all the way through to the end of 2024 and now carrying into 2025, at least personally, and what I see more broadly is the people who can do certain few things really well and actually do seem to be the standout people. Looking at it from a podcast perspective, there's a few out there that I see as like, they balance a few things, but fuck, they do them really, really well, be it they themselves or through a team, but they focus on a few things. Stephen Bartlett with Diary of a CEO, which is one I've been checking out more recently. He does a few things with Flight Fund and a couple of other tasks, but the dude works hard. He does seem to balance things. He does talk about it somewhat.
What did you say? Flat Fund?
Flight Fund.
What does that mean?
It's the fund's name. Like Flight Fund, I think the...
What is it? What is that?
I don't know if it's specifically like a venture capital fund, but it's a funding arm to entrepreneurs or startups and the like. So, but they call it a flight fund.
Sure.
So like him and maybe the other examples where I'm like, yeah, I can see like they're nailing it. They're doing a few things really, really, really well. They're balancing it all quite adequately, but they're not deciding to do a million other things. So again, start of the year, I found myself thinking of, well, this for the run or this for my fitness and this for the podcast and maybe this other bit's an idea. And I even talked about it on the podcast where through the year I was like, oh, I got this idea and I quickly trying to analyze if I could do it or not. You know, more and more now the learning was like, yeah, just eliminate the rest. Just for, even if the idea comes to do a particular thing, just eliminate it unless it's really truly above the priority of this other thing. Like, just forget about it. What again? Why? Why would I go down the path? Is it just pure personal wantingness for it, or can I quantify it, or from a quality perspective, say that I want to do it above something else? And honestly, right now, a lot of things that I've already built up in my life, I'm like, no, those are the things for a reason, right? The only other thing, I guess, from a learning perspective, the adaptability aspect of it. So again, not something that is unknown to everyone, but as long as, I was saying earlier, as long as there was a focus on the things that I should be doing and then being adaptable, that, okay, if they get fucked over, they get fucked over by other priority things, that's okay. I'm totally okay. Again, example, I wanted to run 10Ks, didn't have the time, so I ran 6Ks, but I did that because it was my other priority things, which was spending time with the family, doing the podcast, were coming into view with it. Fantastic. And I also didn't want to then be like, oh, I'm going to lose more sleep to actually go and do that. No, like that's not the
one's backup option always.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do that offset in particular. So, fitness and health, which includes sleep, the podcast, my family, and I already said fitness, those are the big things. I'll be adaptable to all those. If it was something not within those grasps, let's just say it was a conference or it was, insert thing here that I don't generally talk about, fuck that. I'm not going to prioritize over that, but I'll be adaptable where the things that are priority are. So that's my learning. Be adaptable and flexible if it's amongst my top priorities. Otherwise, like, fuck off. I'm not going to be doing that at all. Case in point, there's been a few things that have been coming through, like potential interviews for other people. I'm just going like, if it suits me, it suits me. Otherwise, like, I'm not going to be pursuing this. It's just not in my interest right now.
Yeah. I think for both of us, the podcast is a kind of funsy thing at the moment, a hobby. It certainly for me has become more hobby rather than job, which was what I was trying to do for a bit there. That, who knows, that might change in the future. But yeah. Did I mention the Creating the Morpheus podcast in the last one?
You didn't.
I didn't?
Nope.
No. Yeah, I think, because I jumped around, didn't I? I talked about the GitHub and Gitbook. Anyway, that's one of those ones where it's like, it's going to be a funsy thing. I'm not committing to weekly. It'll probably be more like the value for value. I'll do it in seasons, if anything. And that's just a decision we've both kind of made simultaneously, independently, I think.
Yeah.
Of like, I'd love to do it. Can do it. Yeah, I can do anything, but can't do everything.
Correct. So. And I'll list this out briefly, but it's again pretty straightforward. I know that it is a bit of a learning around mindfulness, right? Which is understand human nature. I have to understand my own nature. So more so about being mindful as a learning of the things that trigger me to do something or that don't trigger me to do something. But I kind of fielded that adjacent to relationships and specifically friendships in general, in that I can't expect friendships or friends to initiate interactions and get-togethers and the like if I'm not also doing that as well. So that also probably through the previous year, and then starting to obviously move into what I'm thinking for 2025 is, again, focus, like taking those certain actions around, well, recognizing the steps or the actions I need to take so that it does end up in the outcomes that I want when I'm talking about relationships and the like, right? That I don't just spontaneously work. It can do with some relationships that you have out there. Like I probably have some, I wouldn't call them friends, but people that I know where I might not talk to them for 2 years, and then I'll talk to them and it'll be like, cool. It's kind of like a conversation. But with close friends or connected friends or key relationships, it's like, okay, there's efforts in being mindful of what I also have to do into that equation so that I can get that continuation of a relationship. And this works with any relationship. I think the other way I said it was, relationships matter, especially the ones that matter. So it's important to have relationships, but learning from 2024, I don't want to have 500 relationships. I want to have 50 really good fucking relationships. And the rest are just people that I know and I can inject myself if I need to.
Yeah, even
but that
50 is a
don't
lot,
matter.
man.
Yeah, true. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. I mean, if you count like family and people that you interact with more than every now and again, then whatever that number may be.
Yeah. I saw a little video recently which was like, name 100 women as quickly as you can, and you just do it like on a spreadsheet or something. Yeah. It's fucking so hard.
Fuck that. Already I was looking at mine, I was like, oh man, I'd run out.
This dude did it, what I thought was in a pretty quick manner, and it still took him like 6 minutes plus.
Damn.
Yeah. So I'd struggled to even list 50 people I know.
Jesus. Let me bring up the Boostagram Lounge.
Boostagram Lounge, for everyone who is unfamiliar with how we operate here on the Mere Mortals, we do not have advertising. We do not have sponsorships. We do not have anyone directing us per se. We derive our support directly from you at home. So what this means is we put all this value up front, free, anytime, anywhere, available for anyone. And we just ask that you return some value to us in a voluntary manner. So this is the section where we shout out everyone who's supporting us financially, because we do have to pay for audio hosting. We do have to pay for our time to know that people are actually out there. And so these are some Boostagrams, which is a payment with a message attached that some people have sent in via a cool podcasting app like Fountain or Breeze or True Fans. And so there's a couple here.
Yep. And all three of these ones I'll just call out. They're all through Fountain.
Yeah.
That'll come through.
Good. Call out.
2 from Petar, 1 from McCormick. Petar's first one is a row of ducks, 2,222 sats using Fountain. Right. I think I would have enjoyed your father as an English teacher in high school. That's Karen talking about his dad. Mm-hmm. I agree with 1. I was unable to appreciate deep meaning in literature until I was older and more experienced in life. For me, that was around 30 years old.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. I feel like I could do it before 30. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the book reviews for a while, so hopefully... Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what my dad's class would have been like. He himself said like over the years he had to straddle between pleasing the kids, like being fun around with the kids, but if you're like being cool with the kids, not enforcing stupid rules, then you're drawing the ire of your other teachers, because then the kids will complain. But Mr. Down, let's do this, and or vice versa. And so he said like he'd have some years where he was like a hard ass and following the rules, and then other years where he would,
mix between.
He would not.
This is the same thing.
Depends on the year, Peter.
This is the same as with parenting. You got to find the fine line between being their friend and being their parent. Two different roles. You go one way too hard, you're missing some stuff out. If you go the other way too hard, you're missing some stuff out. There's a fine balance.
My kids get an ice cream with me 24/7 whenever they want it.
I'm lucky right now. My daughter doesn't give an absolute shit about any dessert.
Sugar,
I've in fact given her ice cream. Like, have your ice cream, and she'll be like, "Go away! Nice. I do not want this. I just want water."
Give me the carrot sticks.
Yeah. Carrot sticks, water, and broccoli and cauliflower.
That's good.
Unbelievable.
That's good.
And the other one from Peter, 100,000 sats.
Baller!
Woo! Thanks for all the stimulating yet easygoing conversations in 2024, and best wishes and successes for the year to come.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. That is huge.
Intend to, despite us saying the podcast is a hobby, it's still like a serious hobby. not fucking around, other than when we're fucking around with equipment that's not working. But we're still mostly on time, and I still intend to. I mean, book review is definitely going to be coming out. There'll be something every week. I can almost guarantee that. And then these ones, we'll have to mix and match while traveling once again. So we'll go back to meanderings for sure in a 5 months time. But no, we take this stuff seriously as well. So and we take your support seriously. So thank you so much, my friend. That
much appreciated.
Very, very much appreciated.
Yep, absolutely. And Colin McCormick's one. Sorry, I haven't boosted it in, boys. I've caught your episodes on YouTube more recently. I've forgotten to send value. Love the AI talk. I'm diving back into using creative tools, Midjourney, Runway, and 11 Labs. These are all close models. I don't care for using an open source one because I want the best quality right now. The open source tools will make their stake in the coming years, like how the open source animation software Blender has. Slow and steady. Yeah. I did like using Blender, by the way, which I didn't even realize that I was an open source. But there you go. And I was 5,492 sets.
Thank you. That's his her favorite number from a comic
Cole?
book that he used to have. And yeah, this is a good thing about the Mere Mortals. Juan and I are pretty different when it comes to our testing of these things. There's one and psychologies, personalities, and there's definitely one which I think will be beneficial because I'm certainly going to be more on the open source route, and one will certainly be more in the closed source. So
I'd be interested to see
get a nice blend between the two of us.
What Cole thinks of Runway's latest stuff. By the way, Midjourney is AI mostly for the photo. Still Runway ML for video creation, and 11 Labs is for audio, AI audio creation. Which now we don't do this. I'm telling you, we don't do this, but you can really, without much effort now, create our own voices through AI and play audios and stuff like that. If we wanted to, we could very much do this. Like, we could be creating podcasts out there right now with our voices, like saying the things that we want. I guess we could create it ourselves and just create literally like 10 episodes per week if we wanted to. I think it loses some aspect of the human. You would probably have less ums. You would be able to spot that there is some reasonable data of if it's actually us versus the AI Juan and AI Kyron. So at this current time, we do not leverage 11 Labs in that particular way. I use 11 Labs for some of my clips, for the more philosophical creative clips that I use. You'll hear it's called the Gandalf voice. I think I call it Gandalf. And I use that for the clips because it's easy to do as like a tester to utilize. But we don't use it to copy our own voices at this time.
This gets nicely into predictions for 2025. So let's start off with AI one. I'm sure this is in yours. So
So basically, look, my call out here, and this is both personal and broad. Tom Billy said it. 2024. It's kind of like the appetizer, the entree for AI. 2025. It's gonna take off in such a ridiculous level. At least on the OpenAI front. O3 comes out at the end of January, or at least the initial versions. From what it sounds like it can do and its interactions, it blows even O1 Pro out of the water. For the people who've used O1 Pro, I have. That is nuts. That is really, really damn good. If you've used 4.0, ChatGPT 4.0 or the likes, even O1, it's pretty good. I would say it's more than enough the one you need. O1 Pro, for those people who have used it from the ChatGPT side of things, man, that is a beast of creation. You could very easily just leverage what that outputs into emails, document creations. In fact, I know it does because I'm using that right now for that very reason. It's almost at the replacing a hire in a business. It's getting there, and I think that's just going to happen.
Can it create graphs?
Yes.
So if I said like, here's a spreadsheet, I want you to create a graph like this.
Graphs, organigrams, structures. Yeah, it can do all of that.
I want to do a test with it, with some data, some gym data I've got, and see if it can create something good.
Yeah. So like honestly, across everywhere else that you see it, like the money going down the path of some of these players. I think Alphabet is throwing a gigantic amount of money into this now. Amazon, on some of the latest Bezos conversations, he's like, we're basically just an AI company now. Is his sort of call out. If you listen to Bezos' latest stuff around the places where AI will integrate on a horizontal nature to everything. Again, a lot of the conversations that I'm hearing is like, imagining what the internet did, it's kind of like that. Well, now everything that leverages internet or connectivity will do that. There was this concept a couple of years ago, which I'm sure it still exists. It's the Internet of Things. So I talked to my dad a lot about, and it was the whole point of, what if you could have basically anything around us be able to be connected to the internet and provide data in a cool way, which awesome, but that then facilitated that it had to then get processed somewhere to do something. Now I think it's going to become very real. So my predictions, my view of 2025 is there's going to get to that next layer of interconnectivity with everything in an Internet of Things with a full adoption of AI in an agent or agentic way, where it's going to become ludicrous the amount of things that can be interacted with and do, and hopefully more human-centric so that it gets used by everyone as opposed to very technologically centric, I guess.
People have been predicting this for a while. There was that Kevin Kelly book I did a book review on not too long ago, and it was very much along the side of things. There's going to be, this glass here will have sensors in it, data in it, so I could wink at it or look at it and it can darken or appreciate and let more light in, let less light in, all this sort of stuff. I don't think we'll see any of that really this year. Just because I don't think the AI is actually really related to that. It's more the hardware sort of things. So that's one where we'll disagree. I don't think we'll see any of that
my
coming
view
through.
is it's not in the, hey, window, trigger your opacity to 70%. Not so much that, but it's in the tools that we leverage today that can have AI control. In that previously, yes, it requires hardware that fits into it, aka a chip, but it now integrates with something that has existed in the past, voice, but then has the smarts to leverage. When people say AI, it's just commands and create inputs. So like a TV, right? I could very well see that a TV in the past, or like currently, you use Google. So you say, hey, Google, play YouTube, whatever. Fine, it'll do that. I could see it just optimizing a little bit better, where it could say, you could give it full intents of, do that, but also can you record this or can you do that? And it'll just kind of store that and have it in memory in that particular apparatus, as opposed to it just being a global connector. So more individualistic items, I guess I would say in that regard.
I don't think we'll see that this year, but some things I do think we'll see. And I'm going to put some rough percentages to these things as well, because I think that'll just be slightly helpful.
Cool.
So I think we will see some crazy productivity coming from companies. Like you were mentioning in terms of replacing workers, like you could just almost get rid of a full worker. Will companies be doing job layoffs?
Yes.
Massive ones?
Yes.
You expect that?
I was in a company a couple of months ago where my next role that was coming up was to do roll-offs of hundreds of people in call centers, replacing with AI.
All right.
That is coming. And of course, there's a private company that private companies tend to do this first. 100% that's coming. There's no doubt in my mind.
Because this is one of those ones, I'm not linked to any job market, so I don't know or see these things. Logically, that would make sense to me. But yeah, okay, all right. That's good prediction there. In terms of some of the things you were also mentioning, I think YouTube's going to start to degrade in quality in some respect, in that I might be starting to, funnily enough, I might use it more, or people might use it more, but what they're actually getting might be less. And so this is coming with one of the things I'm sort of starting to see are these. There was a word for it in particular, but it was basically being able to create niche YouTube channels using solely AI, faceless. They were called faceless channels. And so basically it would be use AI to have the voiceover, to collect the stock images, to create a script, and you can sometimes even use some like very basic, like exporting something out to Fiverr or someone to create a thumbnail, because those for the intro for a script writing or something, and you make this faceless YouTube channel, and then you can actually just make a bunch of money from the ads off of it. And I've seen some of these videos that they're producing, and it's like, I don't know how much value it really adds. It's getting towards that, we could create a Mere Mortals podcast with our voices and perhaps even some video or something like that. How good is that quality? I don't know. We haven't done it. I would be thinking questionable, but in any case, that's definitely coming. Probably for myself, I would say if I come across some of those videos, I'll be like, fuck, this is trash. Like, why am I getting recommended this from YouTube, for example? Why am I finding this? So I think some of that will appear. Information from unknown sources will get even crazier. So this prediction, 60%, you're going to, whoever you already consume from and you trust, I think people will trust them even more. Like, so if you're already getting stuff from CoffeeZilla with related to scams, you're going to trust him even more. Whoever you get for like makeup advice or something, and you already know is a real person, you're going to trust them even more. And just because I think there's going to be such a wave of faceless or AI ones, or ones where you're going to watch stuff and not realize they're not a real person. I think that's definitely coming. Has it happened yet, do you reckon? Is there any videos from this last year which you watched, you thought was a real person, but actually wasn't a real person?
Not full videos, but definitely clips.
I think some clips as well. I've probably come across. My brother was showing me one of like these Russian drones or Ukrainian drones in North Korea, and North Koreans were in Ukraine for some reason, soldiers or something. I'm like, this doesn't really add up. Like, why is what is this video? What's the context from this? And I tried digging into it, and I just couldn't find any sources from this. This is just a random TikTok video. My brother, I've chatted with him about this, and he doesn't really care. Like, for him, where the information comes from, whether it's actually real is...
Yeah, that's interesting. As long as it's entertaining.
Yeah, for him, it's...
That's interesting.
It's a non-issue. For me, I'm much more on the sense of like, I want to know if that's real or not. I don't know.
Adjacent to that, I heard on a podcast they were talking about, it was the most popular 2024 app, I think was Adobe, one of Adobe's ones.
Yeah.
And it was related to the video capability to delete things off a video. So
or alter images.
Yeah, but it was...
Tim was talking about this. It was a hedge.
I think it was that one. And I agreed with it. It was that when you like a video and you remove the tree out of here or you remove the people out of it, and that then becomes your, I guess, content piece or like what you reflect back on.
Yeah.
You've adjusted like the reality, like you've adjusted what actually happened and how far new generations or that starts getting taken. I don't see that happening as like a 2025 issue, but I'll give percentages. I'll give 20%, a 20% go that in 2025, we're going to start to see not a risk, but the issue of not being able to tell what's real anymore. Is in like, I could envision this. Trump comes into power late into 2025. The ability to use tech and a few other things becomes like, is this actually happening? Is this war actually happening? Is what this person said actually real? What's real? Something recently came up was the Tesla truck that blew up in front of the Trump Tower in Las Vegas, and Elon was posting heaps of stuff about like, we're looking into it and see what happened and what was the issue. And there's lots of sources of information, especially on the X, that you could find out about it. I can see like towards 2025, people being able to just like generate news stories of something like this happening and it not actually happening, but getting enough traction that it's like, how is that real? Like, can you tell what's real? Can you tell what's fake anymore? I say 10, 20% chance that by the end of 2025, we've got a real challenge in our hands of how do you know what's real anymore?
Yeah.
In a digital context, how do you know what's real anymore?
Yeah. Do you remember that video from quite a while ago, or the controversy around this, which was there was some kids with a MAGA hat, and they were outside, I think, Capitol Hill, and there was a Native American Indian dude there, and it had it was famous because this one kid had a smirk on his face, and it was like he was being disrespectful to this Native American guy, and it was like, look at these MAGA kids, they're awful, like they're getting in this guy's face or something like this. Do you remember this? Okay. It was very popular, I think, in the first Trump presidency, so 2016 and 2020. Came out eventually, like other video sources showing that whole narrative was completely wrong, and that these kids were just like doing their own thing, and it was actually the Native American guy who was being the real tosser and getting in their faces and things like this. And so it was just like a small snapshot taken out of context, which, and we know this all the time, people have, clickbaiting or, creating a clip of something out of context, someone talking about a hypothetical of something that might happen or could happen, or wouldn't it be bad if this happened, and then etc. And then I think we're going to have that 90% chance of that happening, but it's going to be on a video which has been altered or is completely made up, and it'll just go super viral, and it'll come out eventually that that thing was just made up. Like it wasn't really a real thing at all. So very, very high likelihood of that happening, with that additional element that someone's modified things through one of these AI sources. Social media platforms will have more AI agents, I think, running on them. So you'll probably interact with a person, or what you think is a real person, but it's actually an AI agent. I think that's going to happen. And this will particularly happen on social media. AI influencers on Instagram, hot girls, or, particularly hot girls. Probably on Twitter and X. What are the other ones? TikTok, for sure, there's going to be some of them, which many people will bemoan about, but I think will probably actually make the platforms more fun, or people will get value from that in some sort of sense. Once again, it's the value. It's like, it's kind of trashy value, but a lot of people enjoy trashy value. So, you know, who am I to judge on that? And I enjoy some of it myself. So you'll definitely interact with someone who isn't real.
Yeah, that's true. I think on the side of things that come from real life that are challenging, I think one of my views towards 2025 is it's going to be, and continue to be until some calamity comes up, it's going to become more rare that you find the individuals out there who are taking the path that's a little bit more difficult, doing the challenging things. And by that, I'm thinking about aiming for a really difficult marathon, or like marathon run pace, or to do the one-handed handstand. I think there's going to be...
Oh no, I think there'll be more of them.
I think there'll be less, and there'll be less because it'll be just more people hunting for the glory and outcome that you get at the end of it, because you might be able to just AI generate it or fake it, as opposed to doing it for the sake of doing it. So I can see a lot of people out there going down the path of, no, I'm not. Why aim for a blah 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 marathon time? Like, if at the end of it, some people will be doing it because they want admiration, adulation, or whatever else, they'll find that in other forms, as opposed to doing the hard things in real life. A general trend I think we're moving away from is, because a lot of things in life will become more efficient and easy to do or accomplish, it will leak into the things that are hard, and people pushing away from doing harder things.
If there's more people who are jobless or perhaps not needing to work, I guess this is the difference, because you can have there's already people like me out there who are like, I don't need to work, so I'm going to work on my own things, and some of them are hard. How many people of all of these, like, getting off jobs, who will be like, you know what, fuck it, I've got some free time, or I've got I'm financially set up, or something like that, will try and do hard things? Do you reckon?
I think few. I think very few. I think the idea of humans in general seeking improvement and growth and whatever else, if satisfied to a certain extent in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think they pause it. I think that a lot of people will just go, fuck it, I'm gonna just enjoy and do whatever I want to do.
Yeah,
and not push any harder in the suffering aspects or a growth aspect.
I'm trying to think. Was there many people like me out there in the 1960s, just who, there's kind of like, there's always been counterculture, I guess, but would I have been able to have the financial freedom to just explore something in the 1960s? And would I have done that back then? Like, lead the life I'm kind of living now? I don't know. But there's definitely going to be the temptation to, like, that video is really great, but, in the past you'd just reshoot the whole thing because there was something wrong with it. But, you're probably like, I can just use this, like, little bit of AI in the corner. It doesn't really matter. I'll just, edit that person out.
Exactly.
There's definitely going to be some of that, and it'll leak into
more. Look, I'll give you an example, which I think I cannot see this being wrong in that, and this is trending towards, I reckon, end of 2025. I would be hazarding a bet that there will be less and less people wanting to learn new languages, because I think most general population people are going to go, why would I learn a new language if insert device, AI, whatever, that's helping me to articulate or respond back in whatever other language is needed at a fractional speeds. I think get every single human on earth who wants to learn new languages, and I think it decreases with more technology that enables that to be immediate.
I agree with that, but that's because most people don't want to learn a new language anyway, but they're having to because they're born in a country where having English improves job prospects, for example. So I see that shrinking, but I think I just feel like if people have more free time, a significant portion of them are going to go like, what do I really enjoy doing? This kind of like YouTube, right? The amount of people who create on YouTube and have now been able to make money from what is a fucking ridiculous niche. Hunter x Hunter manga, reviews / theories / conspiracy theories. New World Review. There was a guy who was doing this, Aussie guy. I really enjoyed his content. was really good. I don't know if it was full time, but he'd certainly be making some money off of it to make it a very least a part time gig. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't do that fucking 20 years ago. There's no. That's impossible. So like, where do those people like him come from, and can more of them come out in this year? I don't know. I feel like there'd be just more people who have got more free time. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. I do want to learn a language. I do want to, you know, today as I was coming here, abuela está holando. And it's like, I was trying to make sense of this. Like, they're talking about momentum. This guy's talking about momentum, but he's talking about Holland, like Holando. Why is he talking about this? This makes no sense. And then eventually I'm like, oh, it's like fucking Dodge Ram. The R in Portuguese is always a H, basically, unless it's double R. Mm. And so he's talking about the ball is rolling. Oh, okay, that's the fucking same as English. And so just that like little, it gave me such a joy just to figure that out and be like, fuck yeah, oh, that's awesome. I feel like there's got to be some other people out there who
I think there will. I think there will always be, but it'll be a reduced number.
I think it'll like decrease the amount of people in total learning another language, but the people who are doing it for fun, I think will actually increase a bit.
True. Okay. Yeah, maybe.
That's my
the last one I was going to say from a predictive view for 2025 that I see again overall is the true transition over into what today seems like a new age kind of thinking or new age ideas. But I think if 2024 marked, okay, it's the beginning of, we're talking a lot about AI, but just generally, broadly, I think 2025 will see the new transition into whatever you want to call it, cycle of being and existing, where I hazard a guess that in most of 2025, most people will be more in the digital world than they'd be in the physical world.
Yeah.
I'll put money on the fact that over the last few years there's been, you know, kids nowadays more and more hours per day. That I think there was something like some kids are 10, 11 hours on their phones per day, right? Which take away sleeping. They're probably more on their phone than they are in real life. I predict that to continue. I think that there will be lots of things that get created in a more digital world that will have humans in general just be more digitally connected as opposed to physically connected. But then on the inverse, I think it'll become that the people who can still be participating in the physical world and do it really well will be like huge winners, like incredible winners. I think Gary V did like a little clip and video around how, you know, now in the transition into everything's more efficient, everything's more effective, everything's really quick. Some of like it's not just this, but some of the really big winners now are going to be the ones who can still use traditional means of human connection to like wow someone. So in a world where everything's going to be like this and it just comes really quick, one of the examples he gave is, you know, call up job that you did 6 months ago and give them a call and say, you know, blah 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 blah, like kind of like the human interaction. So I think that aspect into 2025, you're going to win more if you make it more personable, more human. But at the same time, we're going to see this grand transition of absolutely everyone just being more and more digitally connected as opposed to less. I think that's out of the bottle. The amount of things that are coming up and around is like, I'm just going to see it more and more. It's getting to the point that, you know, they were out many years ago, wearables, but I didn't really see many people using it. But the amount of people now that I hear or of conversations of like, you know, the meta glasses and more things that come from a connectivity and interactions, I think more of them are going to start coming out almost to the point I'm not next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the years to come it's like full fucking helmet setup for everyone, where it's a full helmet where you've got like headphones and glasses and whatever else, and it's translating and connecting and then importing and exporting from all that sort of stuff from your brain. I could see that happening eventually, not 2025, but I think we're moving towards
that's a bit further out.
That's the integration point with technology. I think humans coming into in 2025.
Yeah, I pretty much bang on agree with that. To add to that, the physical experiences will. Yeah, it's like you're asking. You spend more time digitally, but the physical ones will have extra value, perhaps, or as a proportion. I don't know how you'd say this. So, for example, if you're really good at creating a run club or creating a community, that's going to be super valuable digitally, online for sure. But then also that doesn't exclude the real world. If you can create a piece of art and have people pay to watch you create this art, for example, in real life, that's going to be a thing. If you're great at organizing, that's another one. I definitely see, tour guide. If you can do tour guides of the city or something, I definitely see more of those.
I think the underlying thing across all of those as well is, and the transition I think is happening is already started, but coming through this year as well and years to come, the underlying commodity I think will become more so now entertainment for a human. Why? Because a lot of the traditional jobs that would existed, or things
sure,
that
you don't need to do the fucking boring shit of
tax accounting. All of those won't exist anymore. They're just not things or tasks that most people will have to do in the coming years.
It'll still be a slight change though. Like we're not saying mass.
Gone.
The layoffs are not going to be 50% of the population.
No. But I think as the transition starts to occur, the underlying commodity is going to become entertainment. It's going to be attention holding, and the people out there who can entertain, who can attention hold, where there's going to be, as you say, loads and loads of spare time for eyeballs. Whoever can capture a lot of them is going to make a pretty penny. But to do that, I think it's going to be entertainment. It's going to be parts of how good you can use the digital world, how well can you interact with the physical world, which will come out sort of winning in that.
Yeah. Okay, we've said a bunch of good things. How about any bad things you're predicting? So, for example, I think there'll be some social tensions in Europe, in particular with regards to immigration and energy stuff, some financial things.
I think America will probably get more of those social tensions around
Trump,
immigration and stuff. Yeah. I mean, they've already started talking about it in terms of the immigration.
So like political thing. See, I feel like Europe's, I don't know, the bits and pieces I hear about Europe immigration and like rising crime stats, the amount of, countries like Sweden, what's one of the big Swedish towns? I'm forgetting the name of it. It's got some stats where it's like, it's just as bad as like Baghdad in terms of some crime stats.
Okay.
Because they've just got so many Syrian immigrants and other, just mixing of cultures, and it's not going so good, is what I've heard. Maybe we'll get to see this real time, real life when we're there. We'll see.
Maybe.
So I'm definitely predicting some social tensions. What does that mean? A whole bunch of riots, I think, and political protests, and I'm seeing that. Do you think there'll be any wars? Are you expecting
more than already are? Beyond the wars already going on?
Well, will any wars end, and will any new wars start in terms of, especially big ones? The big ones being like Taiwan and China, or what was the other one? There was another big melting. The whole Middle East sort of stuff. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Dang.
I'm saying no, but my prediction capability is 0.5%.
Yeah, I was going to say. I feel like my mind went to like no, but it's also because I don't know enough.
Yeah.
It's whenever when an actual war begins, and again, how do you define a war? What does that actually mean? Hot war, cold war, economical war, right? There's many definitions of that. But even in that, I'm like, it's only retrospectively that you can kind of like, that's when it began. Yeah. If you're looking at a post, you can predict it, I'm sure, but I don't have enough data nor give a shit.
Natural disasters? Any
crazy ones?
Well, I was looking this up, and so it's actually, how many people do you think die from natural disasters per year worldwide?
Let's say 1 million.
1 million? No, not even close. Usually,
more or less?
Way less. The average for the past couple of years, apart from, I think it was this 2023 was the Turkish earthquakes, and that killed a whole tens of thousands of people.
Yep.
Usually it's in the low tens of thousands from flooding and things like that, and then you'll see these massive spikes on the graph for the tsunami, Boxing Day tsunami, or whichever year that was. Was that 2001?
No,
it was in the 2000s.
Later than that, but I can't remember exactly.
It was in the 2000s. That killed, I think it was 200,000 people in Indonesia or Bangladesh or that kind of region. That is, who the fuck can predict these sort of things? The only thing I would say is 0.5% chance is that we've got some better technologies on knowing a tsunami's coming or detecting earthquakes or detecting things. So you might get a slight extra chance of of being able to prepare for that. But yeah, in terms of the actual event happening, you know, like who the fuck knows? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll still be cyclones and cyclones and hurricanes that, as usual, sort of still occur. Cold snaps, hot snaps.
Global warming, I don't think is going to contribute to that, if anything at all. Last couple of ones I had here was I think we'll actually have some cool hardware rather than software changes or emerges. So the last
the new supercomputer that came out from NVIDIA, $250 supercomputer, like tiny little thing.
Entertainment with drones. For example, I really want to fucking see a drone show. That's one of the things I want to do. Because that Chinese one and other ones I've seen just over the last year or two on social media has been like, fuck, that looks cool. My dad, just for Christmas, when he came over, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's this present. We've got a drone now in our house. And it was just because he was like, yeah, I had like this extra money from doing stuff on Temu, and I had to use it, and so I got a drone for you. And it was like $70. Like,
have you been using it?
We haven't even got it out of the box, man.
I bought a drone for my sister 2 years ago with a full camera and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think we used it once.
Yeah. I do want to intend to use it because I'm like, all right, well, fuck it. Why not? So obviously getting super cheap, that shocked me at how cheap that was. Super cheap. Even robots in general, I was chatting with this lady yesterday, and she mentioned she has a Roomba to clean up the dog hair that's in her house. She's got a golden retriever as well. I was like, that is a problem that we're having at my brother's place.
Talking about Roomba?
I was looking at it. They're way cheaper than they were 2 years ago when I was looking. So, you know, there's one of those ones where it's like I could just see random hardware things like that, which are just the price point has just been a bit off for what I would personally get for many things, phones, laptops, cameras and stuff. I could just see like getting to just a price point where I'm like, you know what, I might get that. Get that. So I see more of that happening. But
here's a big one I think will happen. Economically, I think interest rates will come down globally.
Yeah, I was going to get onto macro.
Australia, I think, is going to happen as well.
Yep.
That's going to accelerate asset prices up to a certain degree.
2025 is going to be great for assets.
I think assets in general will go up, but more importantly, what I think it'll do is the division of have and have-nots is going to become huge. So you're talking about earlier, there's already people who are like, you know, penny pinching with certain things. There's going to become a point where closed usage of AI or anything else is going to become, hey, pay this amount of money to be able to use it. Again, O1 Pro costs $200 per month. There's a lot of people I know that ain't going to be paying for that sort of thing, right? Yeah. And the people who can are going to have a gigantic leg up. And now export this across a variety of things. I have a view that there's going to be we're going to see in the next year, probably 50% chance, an even bigger polarity with assets going up and the availability of money becoming more readily available through central governments. That is going to just push a lot of assets up, including crypto, including all your other sort of assets. And it's going to put a position
real estate, stocks.
Yeah, and it's going to put a position of some what you would normally see, I guess, in the past is like
bonds.
Like generational wealth transfer between like full generations. I think it's going to happen really quickly in like an intergenerational people who have been participating in this new way of interacting and existing assets, and everyone else who has not. And it'll just be this, not just Australia, but just globally, there's huge transition into, oh, holy shit. You can tell if you're participating in crypto or if you've had assets prior to, and if you don't.
So I would say Gini coefficient goes up, which means that the disparity of wealth goes up. I think everyone's going to get a little bit richer.
Yep.
More, when I say everyone, I mean, you know, more or less, obviously, people with their financial circumstances, etc. But in general, most people will have like a little bit more money. They'll be spending a bit more. They might have some extra cash or whatever. And then the results of that we'll probably see in 2026, which will be like a lot of unhappiness about the social disparity of wealth.
Yeah, I think
so. So I think it's going to be like all good for this year. Everyone's going to be having fun, more or less. And then 2026 and beyond is when
Yeah, I think there's going to be an introduction.
Society might pay for that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more, and there's always been a bit of a path towards this, but there's going to be more concentrated wealth that is going to get accelerated once again this year.
Do you know anyone who holds bonds personally?
No.
Who the hell are these people wwho own treasuries and bonds? Is it all just companies and
governments and companies?
Yeah, that's wild.
Maybe there are some individuals that do, but
yeah. Because I still hear people saying, it's like the Benjamin Franklin Intelligent Investor. I think it was 40% in stocks, 60% in bonds or something. It's like I have no. Does anyone follow that?
Does anyone listening to this right now hold any bonds? Please let us know.
Peter holds some bonds for sure. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Last one, I think for personally, it's going to be a great year for me personally, whether I like it or not. This is one of those ones where it's like, last year I had to convince myself, okay, I'm going to make this a good year. So I used some force of will, some manifesting, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
This year, I think it's just going to happen. Even if I tried to be miserable, I think it's going to be a good year.
Okay.
So
that's good.
Part of this will be like financially, part of this is just, friends and family. Everyone seems to be in a relatively decent place. Like we said, I think if everyone's getting a little bit richer, and I hope I'm in that camp, then it plays on your mood as well. And when times are good, everyone feels better. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
I expect that to happen. Juan's getting married. That's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's I think that's our predictions for this year. Was there anything else?
No, but we'll review maybe at the end of the year.
Any medical breakthroughs? Are there any like black swans of really good or really bad things that you think could happen? Are we going to cure cancer this year?
I don't know how true this is or not, but I saw like a post yesterday, which like in a certain part of China, they were starting to quarantine a whole big bunch of people, and a lot of people were dying from hospital and stuff at the hospital and stuff like that. And
I feel like that one would show up really quickly though. Now, people are still like
keep an eye on.
There's plenty of people who are still pandemic gonna. If anything, it'll just be something we're not prepared for, like
I'll say this.
A super bug that comes and renders all our antibiotics useless.
Yeah, I'll say the black swan, not in like actual physical transmission of viruses, but I would say the black swan is going to be the digital transmission of viruses and bugs. In that we're going to have this probably propulsion of everyone using all this new tech and interaction. And there's going to be a lot of bad players who are going to leverage the shit out of that and absolutely hack, steal, take so much from what is largely just about everyone going into a new domain of participation. I could just see like getting hacked by a voice call that sounds like it's a real person, but it's just leveraging AI to get absolutely conned. So I don't know how you would keep an eyeball on this, but I'd say the level of con artists or interactions with fake things will become very hard to tell the difference between the reality and fake. Again, imagine calls now to an old lady about the bank and they needing this, but rather than being a human on the other end, they can just have an AI and they call every single fucking old person there is in Australia. Percentages, if it's 5% going to get scammed, they can scam 5% of all Australians as opposed to all old people in Australia, as opposed to the limitation of a human trying to do that and make it way more interactive. So I think the Black Swan event will be the quick rise of digital.
Everyone loses their money.
So there might be some of that.
I think it's called the honeypot scam, and it's one that started to appear on our YouTube comments here and there, which is, hey guys, thanks, that was a great interview. Could you help me out with my wallet? My
Here's
seed phrase is and they list out their full seed phrase. I always just knew there was something about it. I didn't know what the exact scam was. I found this out recently, which was if you actually put that seed phrase in somewhere, you'd see that it had a couple of $100 worth of USDC or some sort of crypto in there, but there would be none of the natural asset, i.e. like ETH, that you'd need to pay a gas fee to move that elsewhere.
Right, so you'd have to transfer into
So you transfer some in there, but it's already got a contract in there, which immediately whisks everything out.
Yeah.
So it's like a honeypot for scammers, but also just for not necessarily for scammers, just for people who would maybe come across it, know what a seed phrase is, see money in there and be a little bit greedy and like, I could just take this for myself. and they get scammed. So,
and look,
So
don't fall for that. Don't fall for that.
I try and delete them from our comments, but if there's too many, I won't be able to.
Yeah. Reality. Just be aware. 2025. Lots of different things coming.
Yeah, for sure. Keep an eye out on your best practices for anything involving money, not even just crypto
just
related,
broadly in general.
Just broadly don't.
Look, and things probably won't change in 2025, although a little bit slightly. It's just we'll be continue to creating the podcast. You know, we talked about it. There'll be some musings will become meanderings, and some will be solo episodes, and some there'll be fitness and more conversations and stuff like that. But in general, we'll still be appearing on a weekly basis at some form in your ears or eyeballs. So Mere Mortals will be there in 2025, just as they were in 2024.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to leave it there. I don't even know how long this one was.
Yeah, it went a little bit longer.
But Mere Mortals, hope you're well. I don't know if there's any comments. I will quickly pop it up just in case.
A little look-see. Just as we're ending here, value for value, if you want to contribute, time, talent, treasure. So share this show with a friend. Give us any suggestions, topics, what you think some predictions for 2025 are. And then, meremortalspodcast.com/support to support us financially. No comments on the YouTube, so we can end it here for this week, and hope everyone has a fucking fantastic 2025. One, take us out.
Yeah, all right. Mere Mortals, be well wherever you are in the world. One out.
Current out.
Bye. Good.